Hello, howdy, hi everybody, Sam Goodman, really fucking scary stories. How are you doing today? I hope that you are doing great wherever you find yourself in this big, creepy, crawly, macabre, super fun, super lovely, amazing world. Do me a favor, go find me on all the kind of internet places where people do internet-y things like Facebook, etc. Please, that helps us like a ton. Take a few minutes, go down, leave us a review of this podcast. If you like it and you want to give us 5 stars, that would be super duper helpful as well. If you get an extra 2 minutes, maybe 30 seconds, if just a couple minutes, go down and leave us a quick review, type that up and send it to us. And what I really love is send me your stories about the creepy, the macabre, your experiences with the paranormal, your ghost stories, whether real or fictitious, but preferably real, your experience with true crime to rfsspod@gmail.com. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, we love that kind of stuff around here. Send me your questions for future Q&A episodes, all that kind of stuff. That love, that support, we appreciate it a lot. And with all that being said, let's jump right into today's episode. Today, we're talking about the Aswang. So first off, I really hope that I'm pronouncing that right, so I don't get in like lots and lots of trouble. So my fiance Jarrell, he's Filipino, and this is from Philippine folklore. So that's what we're going to talk about, the Aswang. And the Aswang is a pretty fucking scary story, and I'm pumped to share it with you if you've not heard of this. It's one of the most terrifying and feared creatures from Filipino lore, and for pretty good fucking reason. To be honest with you, it likes to stalk its prey in small rural towns of the Philippines. It likes to hunt at night, so it's this nocturnal creature that loves a good old-fashioned meal of human flesh and blood. And probably the best thing that I can compare this to in maybe American lore, into kind of maybe what you've heard of if you're here stateside, is like a shapeshifter, right? Here where I'm at in Arizona, more like a skinwalker type of creature. So again, what is the Aswang? It's a flesh-eating, shape-shifting monster. So to the shape-shifting part, during the day, it looks just like a normal person, right? It's, it's just wandering around, looks like a normal person. But as compared to other normal people wandering around the town or the city, it tends to have very reclusive habits and or magical abilities. So I'm starting to think that I might be an Aswang. I'm very reclusive and I have magical abilities, right? But at night, the Aswangs shift into these kind of like weird, eerie forms of predators, and they go hunting for human prey. And they really like, so their favorite meal, from what I've gathered, they'll take on, any kind of human-y, fleshy, bloody. They like people meat like a lot, so that's kind of their main thing. But they are a little picky. They really prefer children and pregnant women above all else. So there's a lot of varying descriptions around what the Aswangs look like, but there's some primary kind of recurrent traits that stand out among all those different descriptions. Usually the Aswang is a woman during the day, and at night it usually appears as a bird, a pig, or a dog. Back to our magical shape-shifting ability to go on the hunt for people meat. But no matter what animal form it takes, the Aswang will differ from a regular animal in various really fucking disturbing and creepy ways. Most of them have this like long tongue, and they're frequently described as walking on their feet backwards. So that's like a wonderful image, like this 5-foot long tongue walking on backward feet. I don't know. That sounds pretty fucking creepy to me. And they've also been depicted as being so thin that they can hide behind a bamboo post. So, okay, that's pretty fucking creepy, right? So super long tongue, just like tongue hanging down, walking on backward feet, and then can hide behind a bamboo post. I don't know. That's pretty fucked up to me. Some of the Aswang's most fearsome ability is its knack for blending in with its victim. So again, during the day, it looks and acts like mostly like regular people, right? Back to the point that they're kind of more shy, somewhat reclusive. They might have jobs and friends and some even families, but during the night they shift into a form that is better suited for hunting and consuming the blood of the innocent. But, better and more suited for finding and consuming people meat. There's a lot of different regional versions of the creature to take, as far as its form and all the kind of in between, kind of logistics of Aswanging. I guess that's the right word. And if I butcher these words, Jarrell, baby, I'm sorry. I'm learning. But the tick-tick and the wak-wak become large birds. The Zegbin, sometimes described simply as the companion of the monster, takes on the form of the Tasmanian devil. And as we mentioned, pigs, dogs, pretty super common. And in addition to that, they also have the ability to transform into other objects. They can transform into plant material or into a doppelganger. Talk about fucked up, seeing yourself walking on backwards feet with the gigantic tongue that's going to consume your flesh. So they can turn into a doppelganger of their victims in order to hide the evidence of its feeding habits. So one of those things where it's going to be like, okay, I'm going to eat your people meat and I'm going to turn into you so no one knows that you're gone. Again, really fucking weird. So these doppelgangers might replace corpses, which the Aswang often consumes. And back to the point, they're going to kind of cover up their consumption of people flesh by replacing themselves with those living people. Another tactic that they use to disguise themselves is the use of sinister vocal tricks. So as the predator gets closer to its victims, its call gets quieter and quieter, so the victim is tricked into thinking that the monster is actually getting farther away. The Aswang hunting prowess is almost as frightening as its ability to hide itself in plain sight. They like to dine on corpses. They have a thing for fetuses and small children, as we mentioned, and they often appear at funerals and wakes or at the bedside of a pregnant woman to eat. So the Aswang really into the pregnant ladies, really into the fetus stuff here. And so back to its tongue, that big old long tongue has a purpose. It uses it to suck the blood from its victims or to get up in there and suck the fetus from a pregnant woman's womb. It's like a really fucking creepy hummingbird. And they also have superhuman strength during the nighttime. So good luck fighting the Aswang. So as far as its weaknesses, if you ever find yourself dealing with the Aswang, the first step towards ridding yourself or ridding your town, your municipality of this deadly assailant is by identifying the monster. So you got to figure out who the fuck is the Aswang, number one. And there's several ways that you can do this. Aswangs generally have really bloodshot eyes because, they've been awake consuming people flesh all night. And in addition to that, it is said that if you look directly into the Aswang's eyes, your reflection will appear upside down. That's kind of fucked up too. The most common method for detecting Aswangs, however, is the use of this kind of special oil that's made of coconuts and holy plants. And it's said that this will come to a boil whenever the Aswang is near. So it's kind of like Aswang detection, right? So they're repelled by garlic and religious artifacts, and, at their weakest during the day when they're in their human form. So if you can identify who they are, they can be killed by decapitation or being struck with a whip made from a stingray's tail. So there you go. First step, identify Aswang. Second step, find it during the day. Finishing step, cut off that motherfucker's head or beat it with a stingray tail whip. There you go. Aswang destruction. That's the best way to do it. So the origin story, the Aswang was born out of Philippine folklore with stories of this terrifying creature dating back to at least the 16th century when Spanish explorers created the first written record of the monster. They noted that of all the monsters in in this folklore, the Aswang was the one that people feared the most. It was the one that scared the living shit out of people. The creature's name comes from the Sanskrit word asura, which means demon, and this terrifying monster is also sometimes called the tick-tick or the wak-wak, as we mentioned above, kind of the local or regional variants of the Aswang, and these names come from the sinister sound that the monster likes to make while hunting. So back to that weird thing about like its calls and them getting farther, sounding like they're farther away as it actually gets closer to you. Yeah, the Aswang is a brutal hunter. They're really good, and they like to eat people meat. So definitely watch out if you're cruising around the Philippines. So as just amazing and fantastic as a lot of the stories of the Aswang kind of seem, they might actually have been inspired by real life events. Yeah. But they're not as scary as kind of the myth of the Aswang. So let's just say that right now. One theory is that native wildlife was the inspiration for the legends. Like we talked about the tick-tick and wak-wak, and kind of, these hunting calls that the monster is said to make. There's probably the calls of nocturnal birds, right? So, and then things like bats, Tasmanian devils, the endangered species stuff, like with flying lemur. There's a belief that a lot of these things have been killed because they've been suspected of being Aswang in a transformed state. So we're just out often endangered species because Aswang and kill that motherfucking flying lemur. Right? So probably not good. Another explanation that's really possible around Aswang mythology is this presence of a rare genetic disease called XDP, which almost exclusively affects Filipino men. XDP causes patients to have this kind of Parkinson-ish kind of dystonic kind of symptoms, and the patient is afflicted with uncontrollable muscle spasms, contortions, and tremors. Images of Aswangs during transformation are strikingly similar to photographs of a patient experiencing XDP symptoms, and the highest concentration of XDP occurrences are in regions where it's rumored that it was the original home of the Aswang. So again, poor people, that would suck, right? You got this really weird fucking disease that only affects you, and people are screaming that you're an Aswang and trying to cut off your head instead of trying to help you. That's probably not good. And finally, the Aswang legend may be used to explain away horrendous unsolved crimes, right? And we see that back to some of our Appalachian folklore and just regional folklore everywhere. You have these kind of really bad traumatic things that happen, and people want answers. People want to have an explanation. And as people, we like to connect the dots in our head. And it's Bill Bob, he went missing and nobody ever found him again. Fucking Aswang, right? So when a person disappears or is brutally murdered, it's kind of easier, right, for us to attribute that to motherfucking demon, rather than being they disappeared, they probably got murdered and we never saw them again, and the case has gone cold and we can't find them, right? It's much easier to attribute that crime to a demon, to an Aswang, rather than even more so, rather than another human, right? Especially when we're talking a brutal crime, no, a person could not have done this. Definitely an Aswang. And in the regions, tabloids, from what I understand, still to this day, often still attribute crimes to the Aswang, which only adds fuel to the fire of this mythology. So there you go. Aswang, right? We talked about the Aswang. Finally, I will tell you, real or not real, the Aswang is a really fucking scary story. Have you had a really fucking scary experience? Have you seen a ghost? Have you been on a macabre adventure? Would you like to share it on air? Would you like for us to tell that story? Or you just have something horrid that you would like for us to talk about? Send us an email at rfsspod. That's rfsspod@gmail.com. Make sure that you subscribe. New episodes come out every single Friday. We look forward to continuing this creepy, crawly, morbid, macabre, and grotesque adventure with you, the listener. We love you, and we will see you soon. Thank you for joining us today on our trip into the dark. We hope that you join us again next week for all things horror, all things macabre, all things